Welcome to The Secrets of Success. By following the proven techniques of the guests who appear on this series, you'll learn that even successful people run into detours and failures, and how you can apply their success techniques to change your life.
You're now listening to the most unique show on radio, the show dedicated to making you a success. Renee Marino says it's time to balance new school technology with old school simplicity. Let's see what she means. Renee, thanks for being with us today.
Hi, Bill. I'm so honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
Now, Renee, you bring a unique perspective to our show because you are a legitimate TV, movie, theater actress. You've been there and done that, not just a brief appearance or a walk-on. You've actually had careers through there, and you've been named one of the top 10 communication coaches. So if anybody's going to know this field about communication, it's going to be you. Am I correct?
Yes, you are correct.
And on top of that, somehow you found time to write a book called Becoming a Master Communicator.
Yep. Now, I know, it's so crazy when you say all that. I'm like, oh my goodness.
You have to be a lot older than you look, so I'm just going to leave it at that. But how you got this all in. But now, what is your definition of a master communicator?
A master communicator is a person who knows the right time and place to have their communication be through virtual means, and the right time and place to put the digital devices aside and have a real direct conversation.
Do those people exist? They're out there yes, someplace?
Only after they read my book, though.
Okay. No, that's fair enough. And again, you bring such a unique background to it because you've been there, and as you say, an actress projects. You may have a role being the president of a country or a business. You may have a role being an actress in the role, or a cowboy, cowgirl, whatever the role calls for. And you have to project that to us. And again, today we are going between our phone, computers, verbal communication as we're doing, written communication. And a lot of people are getting into a lot of trouble lately by what they're putting out there sometime 4 or 5 years ago, but the record stays now because it's an email, etc. So we definitely need your help in becoming a master communicator and knowing which road to take, whether it should be verbal, written, or maybe some other way to go. You mentioned that communication is power. Can you expand on that for our audience a little bit?
Absolutely. I believe, I know in my soul, through lived experience and just through witnessing all of the interactions around me, that everything starts with communication. And when we learn to master this skill, we become limitless. Because the truth is, Bill, what in our life is not tied to communication? Of course, we know all of our relationships, personal and professional, but also when you go a bit deeper, the things we don't often think about, our own health. If we are not having that honest communication within ourselves, which I believe is first and foremost most vital, that communication we have within, if we're not being honest about where we may be going a little off with our eating habits, or where we're not really taking that time to exercise, then how could we expect to be in the healthiest of bodies if we're not taking care of ourselves by having that conversation within?
I wrote down, you used the word limitless. And boy, that's so true, because very few of us go through the whole day like the old time monk or a religious person who doesn't talk at all for either a period of time or at least a few hours. We're either texting, we're on the computer, we're writing letters, we're somehow or other we're communicating, even if it's just the police traffic person who's using their arms and hands to give signals, moving us back and forth. So definitely something, and I don't think we're really taught that enough. It comes, I guess it would be under an English course or public speaking, but nobody tells us when to do that as opposed to the computer, as opposed to an email or a tweet or whatever else is used.
You're so right. And that's such a great point, because especially nowadays with digital technology being on the rise, being so much a part of our everyday lives, it's really a gift. I say technology is a gift. And when we learn to use it the right way, consciously, then we can do amazing things with it. We can reach people we never thought possible. But if we use it unconsciously, which many of us are doing nowadays, The minute we sit with nothing going on, what do? We reach for our smartphone. We start scrolling on social media. We look at other people's lives. We check out of our own. So it is this delicate balance. And many of us are not aware that there's a problem. We're not aware that we are on the computer messaging, emailing, text messaging without ever taking the time to say, I want to meet my friend in person. I haven't seen them. Or I'm going to pick up the phone to my ear and have an actual verbal conversation.
And sitting on the other side, and I don't mean you personally, but when I'm with someone who is using one of their devices, what I'm going to say might be excessively or more than I would like it, I take that as a way of saying to me, Bill, I'm finding your information boring, certainly not interesting. It's not going to advance my life, so I'm going to go elsewhere and look at something that might be a funny quote or a video or something else. I'm kind of insulted, and if anything else, I'm starting to think, okay, I should move on to someone else. So there's two people, of course, in communication. We're interacting, and I'm ready to move away from them. You mentioned that technology has become a crutch for communication. Again, can you expound on that, how we use that and it's a crutch for us?
Yes, for many of us, it is so much easier to text one another than have an actual conversation. It's so much easier to send an email than actually have to speak to you at all. And what is happening and what I'm witnessing in clients in just our society right now is these devices and digital technology is becoming a sort of mask for us. It's a mask that we can put on where we don't have to actually face our friends or family or opponents for that matter, because we can kind of hide behind this screen. And I refer to something in the book called keyboard confidence, which is confidence that is only felt behind a screen and with your fingers when you're typing on a keyboard or on your smartphone. But to be a master communicator and to be someone who is authentic and genuine in all of their communications, you must have that same confidence you have behind a screen of your device in person. And one way to really keep yourself in check with this is to ask yourself one question before you post something on Facebook, Twitter, or even send a text message. Would I be comfortable speaking about this in person? If the answer is no, then I say have a cathartic writing session, take out your pen and journal what you are going to type, and only type or post about what you would be comfortable talking about, because that is how you become the same person on social media and behind a screen that you are when face to face with someone.
And Renee, obviously I'm out of this loop per se, but hearing about people in high school and college today, a lot of people fall into that trap. They will say things they would not say to someone's face or would be leery of saying up front and personal. And it causes great upsetment for the other person, maybe even psychological problems. And to the extreme, we get stories of someone walking into a school with a gun or an explosive or with the intention of doing harm to that other person because they are literally ruining their lives or upsetting them to such a degree that it's knocked them off the usual course. And what should be an enjoyable time, the high school or college years, they're bickering with someone over the internet that they may hardly know and may not even be based on any truth. So
yes, and you know, I have chills as you're saying that. It literally breaks my heart with all of these situations that are so unfortunate. And if we can just take a step back as a world, as a society, and say, okay, how can we fix this problem at the root? And I believe that communication is what's at the root. Communication is like breathing. We often don't think about it or how we're doing it unless something goes wrong. You don't think of how you're breathing until you have a panic attack and you're like, I can't catch my breath, right? But on a daily basis, it's very unconscious. Same with communication. You go about your days texting, emailing, having conversations. You don't think much about how you're interacting with those people that you're speaking with until something goes wrong. And my hope with this book is that it will shine a light on this potential problem that can be either a problem or something so great, which is becoming a master communicator and learning to really speak in ways that are representative of who you really are and how you really feel. And as I said before, knowing the right time to communicate virtually and knowing the right time to communicate through old school simplicity channels like face-to-face, a phone call, or something that I believe is really becoming a lost art, a handwritten letter, and putting pen to paper, which is one of my favorite ways to communicate.
A few years ago, I heard about someone who was running seminars or tutorial classes to teach high school and college students how to socialize, just like what we're doing now, but on a one-to-one or one-to-two basis, because they were so used to dealing with the internet, the phone apps, etc., that they really didn't understand communication the way we're doing it, and perhaps couldn't. And of course, if they're moving on to the real world, you kind of have to if you're going to succeed.
Yes. And Bill, you know as well as I that everything we do, everything we say, it's a strong representation of us. And I spoke to so many teachers and parents in my research for this book. And I actually posted a question on social media and I said, do you feel that children nowadays have problems with writing out actual sentences or taking notes because they're used to the shortcut spelling of social media? And across the board, I had hundreds and hundreds of responses, and it was like 99% yes, like a big old yes. And my own family members, I have many cousins who are teachers, and they are struggling because they can see that their students are not fully grasping when they are speaking to the students because they don't know how to take those proper notes. So then they're struggling a bit to write those notes on a pad of paper. And because of that, then they're not fully listening. And it definitely is a big problem right now. And it's not something that's not fixable. Absolutely not. So much of what we can help ourselves with comes from simple awareness that there's even a problem there.
Renee, at this point in the show, we like to remind our listeners that you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Bill Horan. Our guest is Renee Marino, spelled Marino. Her book is Becoming a Master Communicator. And Renee, we're going to ask you one where we can get the book. And I know it's coming out, I believe, January 25th of 2022. And
yes.
If there's a website where we can get more information, you've been so helpful already to us, but that would help us all communicate better and maybe avoid a few arguments and misunderstandings. Let's put it that way.
Yes, I would love to share with you all that my book is actually available now to pre-order. Woo-woo! So you can pre-order it. And when you do, you get 2 incredible free bonuses. One's called 21 Ways to Use Communication to Increase Business Opportunities. And number 2 is an introspective video journaling tool that's actually in the book as well. And all you have to do is go to becomingamastercommunicator.com. And you can pre-order it right there, and you'll get those bonuses right into your inbox.
And Renee, I'll tell our audience, which, first of all, we'll give that information again 2 more times during the show. So if you didn't get it down, grab a pencil and paper. But I get a ton of books to review before this show. And as soon as I got Renee's book, I said, oh, this is a good one. This is one that people need. And you obviously bring it out very well. Sometimes the guests themselves don't bring out the concepts, but obviously with your background, and now I'm going to tell our audience, in addition to being an actress, being one of the top 10 coaches, you've actually worked, I think, with Tony Robbins in giving seminars and teaching people how to communicate in the real world so it enhances their personality, their persona, their brand, and their business, I guess.
This is a really cool story, Bill. I got introduced to Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi because what did I do? I joined, they had free challenges, and Dean's challenge was called the Start Over Challenge. And it was a 1-week challenge, they call it on Facebook, where Dean would come into this Facebook group, teach, and then our homework was to go live on our cameras in the Facebook group and talk about whatever the subject was for that day. And that was the first challenge. The second one was Tony Robbins, called the Comeback Challenge, where there were 300,000 people in the group. And again, Tony Robbins would come in, teach, and we'd have to go live, speak about the topic of the day. And the first one was Dean's, and I did that each day. And the last day, his team reached out to me and said, Dean would love to interview you live in front of the group. And he interviewed me all about my story and how I became part of the Jersey Boys film directed by Clint Eastwood. And we spoke, had a great interview. And at the end, he asked me to be on his podcast, which was amazing. And then a few weeks later, I was a part of Tony's challenge. And what I noticed is every day when I would go live on the camera and I was just myself, I got a flood of messages in my inbox from people all over the world saying, Renee, how do you do that? Wow, you're so great. Can you show me how to do that? And at first, Bill, I was so confused. I was like, what do they mean? What am I doing? I was just being myself. And then it clicked. Oh, getting on video for so many people still is so scary and not natural. And now that we're in this, at that time we were in the heart of the pandemic, everybody's having to operate virtually. I said, people need help with this. And that's when I started teaching a course I have called Connecting on Camera. But beyond that, the last day of the challenge, Tony Robbins, national speaker, each day would call out certain people who stood out and their videos stood out. And my video got picked on day 3. And then the last day, she said, one person showed up every day, delivered so much value to everyone, came in, lit up the group. Renee Marino, you just won 5 days to Tony Robbins' private resort in Fiji. And I was like, ah! So it was this amazing moment. But because of that, I really became a part of their community. And here's the kicker, everybody. Never met them in person. I never met Dean or Tony in person. But when you become a master communicator, you communicate just as naturally on video as you do in person. And that's what I did. And a few months later, Dean's team reached out to me and asked if I would co-host his first ever virtual World Summit put on by he and Tony Robbins. And I went out to Florida and I was on this incredible virtual stage with 9,000 Zoom screens we were surrounded by. And I met Tony and Dean and I introduced them and I got to co-host this amazing event. And it was absolutely mind-blowing. And it all came from just me getting on video and being myself.
And Renee, again, I want to tell our audience and point something out. You have been an accomplished actress and one of the top 10 communication coaches, and yet you're going to seminars to still better yourself, to advance your brand, your business, etc. So if someone is looking to move ahead in the world, Becoming a Master Communicator is a great book to get hold of, and just find out what Renee has to say. If after all her success, she can still advance. Obviously, there's some things the rest of us are missing, and we would like to get in there. And even if we advance by 10 or 15% in whatever career we're in, teaching, sales, etc., it's certainly going to help us a lot. But I want to find out more about communication styles. And I'm just wondering today, we have so many age groups going on, Gen X, Y, Z, millennials, boomers. Is any one group like the best communicator? Would you say that anybody from 55 to 60 or 28 to 32, is there a winning group in there?
I would like to say that I think it all comes down to the individual. Why do I say that? Because I have family members of mine who are, say, in their 60s to 70s, and they are incredibly balanced. They pick up the phone and have phone conversations. They love to meet in person, but they're very well versed with Zoom and with virtual calls and virtual meetings. So they're well-rounded in that way. So I really feel like it's the individual, but the individuals who are the best communicators are those who have already balanced these two worlds. Because as you said, my mother, who is just the best in the world, she's 72 now. And I've had to help her immensely with getting comfortable with Zoom. And she's still not very comfortable with it, but she does it. She texts, still not her favorite. but she tries. But of course, for her, what's most rewarding in her conversations are the in-person ones. And even when she and I are together, she's like, okay, we're going to sit together and talk, right? Phones away. Yes. So it really comes down to the individual. And I believe that any age group, I will say the generations brought up in this digital technology era do have it a little more difficult because they don't know what it was like before this. So for them, I talk about this in the book. I have a chapter where I talk about how digital technology enhances our communication and also how it inhibits it. And I refer to sitting in a waiting room of a doctor's office. And I remember years ago when you would do that, people read magazines and would look up at each other, smile, make small talk, right? Remember small talk? And now, just recently, I was in the waiting room of my doctor's office and I love to smile. I'm a very social person and say hello. And this one woman looked at me like I had 10 heads and then went back to her phone, her head in the phone. And I thought to myself, you have to be kidding me. I just said hello. I didn't ask you for $500, right? But it's tough, and no judgment here because maybe she was just brought up in this era where she didn't really know what it was like before having that smartphone. So again, this is why I want every possible person who wants to read this book to get it in their hands, because you're just going to all of a sudden have all of these, as Oprah calls them, aha moments, where you're like, oh my goodness, I don't even realize I did that. I don't realize I do that. Even having a smartphone out on the table, if you're out to eat with someone or out for a coffee and you don't pick it up and you don't refer to it, still research shows that it proves to take away from the effectiveness of the conversation.
Renee, what I think is so funny, that lady didn't have time for you. Now, if someone said, did you meet any actresses today or anybody from Broadway or the movies or the theater? No, where would I meet someone like that? And here she had the opportunity, and of course, that's what the Secrets of Success is all about, bringing opportunity to our audience to try to help them through people like you and great authors. And here she could be talking to an actress and have a great story, if nothing else, to tell people about, and a new friend, and she's locked into her phone.
Bill, you said it. Wait, I have to tell you, I have chills again. See, chill bumps. Whenever I get chill bumps, it's always like, oh, we are speaking at the right time about the right thing.
I love chill bumps. That's your next book, Chill Bumps. Yes, that's the title. I love it.
That's so good. But exactly what you said is exactly what I write about in the chapter. That sometimes that person sitting next to you could become the person you fall in love with. That person next to you could be a friend of your family member that you never met. And now all of a sudden they're in your life. Like, we don't know. And the opportunities are there for us when we can keep our head up, look around us, be present to the moment. That is when opportunities are put into our laps, not when we're immersing ourselves behind these little screens. And just to say this, trust me, everyone, I am a lover of technology just like the next person. I am not knocking it. I'm saying that it's about balancing it. When we do that, we're golden.
Renee, I want our audience to know that the person we're talking to today is Renee Marino, Marino. Her book is Becoming a Master Communicator. And Renee is going to tell us, where we can get the book and a website where we can get more information. And I think there's a test question on there and some free information.
Yes. You can pre-order my book. I hope you will. You get 2 incredible bonuses for free when you do. And you can go to becomingamastercommunicator.com for that. You can also reach out to me. I'm very active on Instagram at I am Renee Marino. My website, reneemarino.com, or LinkedIn. I'm there, Renee Marino. Wherever you'd like to reach out to me, come say hello. I love to connect with those who have listened to an interview that I've done or just have a question about communication.
And I think our audience can see how important this is and how much we might be missing and not even knowing it. And Renee, you mentioned in your book, and I wrote down this story because it's, I think, so pertinent to all of us. Your husband was about to go into a business with someone or was interested in it or thinking of it. And then he had some communication back and forth. And he just realized this is not someone I want to be in business with because of the way they communicate. Can you amplify that a little bit for us?
Yes, for sure. My husband was talking to a man to do potential business with, and they were communicating through email. And my husband had asked him for something specific that he needed information about. And the email sent back, I tell you, was like an email written by a 5-year-old. There was just no thought put into it. Words were misspelled. There was a tone of abruptness. The gentleman was asking questions that really someone would only ask if you were already in business together. And more so than anything, nothing was structured out well. And as I said before, the way we write is a representation of us. And my husband read this email and was so disappointed because it just didn't match with the gentleman he had spoken to. And he was really feeling frustrated about this. And he said, "Can you read this email and let me know if I'm like overthinking this?" And I said, "You know what, Michael, I feel the same way." This gentleman didn't put any thought into it. It was as if he typed it on his phone really quick, sent it back. And for me and my husband, it was that thought that if this is how he does business and he's trying to be in business with my husband, you'd think he'd be at his top of his game. Can you imagine what his work ethic is like on the daily? So in his instincts, in his gut, my husband was like, this doesn't feel right. And I agreed with him. But the whole point of that is to say, what we write, whether it is in an email, whether it's on a Facebook post, whether it's a handwritten letter, that represents us and who we are. So taking the time to pause, really think about what we want to say, and look back and make sure that it's written well is a great use of your time as a master communicator.
Renee, you've been so interesting today, so much fun to talk to, and opening up so many doors for a lot of us that I don't think we're even aware of the way we communicate, or we may be doing some of these things that I want to make sure before we wrap up that our audience gets this information. Our guest today on The Secrets of Success has been Renee Marino, Marino. Her book is Becoming a Master Communicator. And again, Renee, I'm going to ask you to tell us where we can get the book and the website where we can get additional information and kind of boost our career and get us moving along.
Yes, absolutely. You can pre-order my book today. Go there. Because when you do, you get 2 free incredible bonuses. One is 21 ways to use communication to increase business opportunities. And number 2 is an introspective video journaling tool. All you have to do is go to becomingamastercommunicator.com. You can pre-order the book there and you'll be set to go. And reach out to me on my website, reneemarino.com, or on Instagram at I am Renee Marino, LinkedIn, I am Renee Marino. You can pretty much find me on all social media platforms at Renee Marino.
Renee, thanks so much for being with us today. We'd like our audience to know that you've been listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan, asking you to please join us again next week at the same time when we will continue our journey to success.